Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cinemacast right here on our channel, Arrow Entertainment. You're watching us on YouTube and you're watching us on Rumble. You guys can also follow us on the social media, Discord server as well. Links for everything is right down below. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, today, I think this is the first time I've probably covered a Netflix release. Usually it's a theatrical release of some sort, but this one caught my attention by coincidental accident, I want to call it. Now, today's feature is an interesting one because lately I would scroll through social media like Facebook or Instagram, and I would see these random clips from certain movies that would either catch my attention or to me would feel kind of boring, dulled out, or something that I'm just not into, right? So there was a particular scene from this movie that caught my eye. And lo and behold, the scene actually takes place at the beginning of the movie. And usually when I watch these clips on social media, and I'm like, okay, what movie is this? What movie is this? You know, because I don't know what the hell it is, so I got to scroll through the comments section to see who all knows what this movie is, and they usually put it in the comments. So today's feature is Rebel Ridge, starring Aaron Pierre, Don Johnson, and a cast of pretty much nobodies to me. I don't know a lot of these names. Like, there's one other name that I know is James Cromwell, and I thought James Cromwell was dead, but he's 85 years old. That guy's still kicking. He was in a ton of movies that I've seen. You know, if you don't know James Cromwell, he was in movies like L.A. Confidential, Star Trek First Contact, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, W, so many other movies. This guy, I mean, he is up there in age. I thought he was older. I actually thought he was dead, to be honest. I think it might be James Caan I'm thinking of. I don't know. So yeah, if you're looking for a good action thriller movie, this is one not to pass up. Directed by Jeremy Saulnier. I'm guessing I'm pronouncing that name right. Saulnier. So let me see what films he's done. Oh, he didn't really do too many films. He did 2 short films. He did a total of 5 major films since 2007. He actually did the 2015 movie, The Green Room. And I heard about that movie. I just never paid attention to it. I think that was actually a horror movie, I think. Yep, horror thriller. Then this next one, Hold the Dark, which was an action thriller movie. And of course, there's Rebel Ridge. So he's fairly new, you know. He's been in the game for just a little bit, you know. Now, what strikes me with this movie too is the rating for it. This movie came out in 2024, guys. It came out last year, and I'm going to skip to the rating real quick of this movie. On a review aggregator website, Rotten Tomatoes, 96% of 120 critics review this movie is positive, on an average of 7.9 out of 10. The website's consensus read that an intelligent and gripping vehicle for Aaron Pierre's star-making performance, Rebel Ridge lays down the law on its action thriller contemporaries. I mean, so yeah, this movie, it's gotten some pretty good praise for it. And Aaron Pierre, I'm really not too familiar with his work. There is only one other movie that I did see him in, and that was M. Night Shyamalan's Old, that came out in 2021, which was another interesting movie. And of course, this actor is going to star as the voiceover for the movie Mufasa, The Lion King, that comes out this year as well. But he's also done some work on television. He's done a couple stage plays and such, so he's not too familiar for me, but I will say his performance in a movie like this is really spot on. It's very strong, At times, it's very subtle. And I will say, for a movie like this, you know, at its as its own vehicular, I'm trying to think of some very intelligent, just different words to describe this film and what I witnessed. Like I watched it from beginning, and mind you guys, there are going to be spoilers within this movie. So if you don't want any spoilers, I recommend you go to Netflix right now, check out this movie, and then come right back. So the movie follows Terry Richmond, played by Aaron Pierre, who is a Marine veteran who cycles into Shelby Springs, Louisiana, to post bail for his cousin Mike and buy a pickup truck to use for their work. He is rammed by police officers who pretty much did, I wouldn't say an illegal traffic stop in a sense, because this guy was on a bicycle, not a motorcycle. He was on a bicycle, and the cops ram him off the road, question him, and of course, you know, they seize $36,000 in cash via civil forfeiture. And that is, civil forfeiture is, you know, well, yeah, it gives a definition of that word. Okay, so that is a scene that I came across on social media, where he's standing there and these cops are just crooked as hell, really crooked. And Aaron Pierre's character is just standing there, you know, he is just, I don't want to say quiet, but he is just standing there like, okay, whatever, you know, like he'll cooperate as calmly as can be. Like his demeanor in this entire film just about is always calm until something happens, something dramatic happens, and then he kicks in. Now, I won't say he won't kick in like Rambo style, you know, because if anybody have seen First Blood with Sylvester Stallone, you know, he was a former Vietnam veteran, came home, all he wanted to do was go home, and he gets harassed by a police department, you know, and then he's on the lam in the woods, in the wooded area of the town, and they're all hunting him down, so he's got to take matters in his own hands. That's not quite how things go here, in a sense. Like I said, this character, he remains calm pretty much throughout most of this movie, and he sets it up very well in different scene sections when it comes to dealing with a police department within the town that he's in. So, apparently, when I watch this movie, I always pay attention to a good movie. When I'm focused in on a movie, I pay very particular attention to certain details. If you don't pay certain attention to details, particularly, you're going to lose the plot, basically. And I feel at times where it kind of feels like the plot was trying to lose me in its tracks with a lot of explanations that is going on within this movie. But everything is just too subtle, and it all falls into place toward the end. So I'm not going to go too much into any detail as to what all happens and how it happens. But let's just say this guy, Terry, his cousin Mike, he is in police custody, facing time to go to prison. And Terry is pretty much in a time-limited base to get money to post his bail to keep him safe. Now, there is an explanation to why he is in prison. So, he goes to the courthouse. When the courthouse clerk refuses to help him, there's an employee there by the name of Summer McBride, who's played by Anne Sophia Robb, who promises to prepare the paperwork in case Terry can pay Mike's $10,000 bail before his Thursday transfer to the state prison, where he would be in danger for informing a gangster. So, pretty much, his cousin is either an informer for a gang of some sort, or he's a snitch. So he's held by the police, and his cousin's supposed to help make his bail. And it ends up turning out that with everything that's going on with the police holding his money, taking his money from him, and he goes into town to question them to get his money back, and then things turn sour rather oddly, not too quick, but very subtly quick in a sense, to the point where he starts to become somewhat of a nuisance, and then ends up making his cousin's bail after it is revealed of his identity of being a Marine veteran who's not very particular with firearms. He doesn't really use too much of a weapon in this movie. And you will notice that, like, there has never been a single shot fired from this person. Every gun that he comes in contact with that is used by a police officer, he uses basically a mixed martial arts style that he has learned in the service. And he disarms the police officers, and he takes the weapons apart. He unloads every bullet from these guns. Like, I'm talking, like, when it comes to the pistols, he pretty much unloads every bullet, takes the clips out. Same thing with the shotguns. You know, he's pumping it, getting all the shots out. It's amazing watching this guy work. You know, this is somebody who's not into firearms. He's not there to kill anybody. You know, he's just trying to make his getaway. He's trying to, you know, get his cousin out, but ends up turning out that the police do him dirty. The police chief, who was played by Don Johnson, who does do this guy pretty fucking dirty, and ends up making a transfer for his cousin to the state penitentiary. And by the time he makes bail, the cousin is already posted bail and is airborne into a hospital where he has been stabbed multiple times while in a jail cell. So at this point, his cousin is pretty much dead because of the police's, the police department's, I'm trying to think of the word for it, you know, their negligence. That's what I'm thinking about. The police department's negligence to get his cousin's bail posted in time. And it's almost like they did it on purpose. Now, there is I want to say it's like a subplot to this movie where it falls into place and you start learning a whole bunch of pretty much crooked things going on within this town, involving the police department, involving the law enforcement, you know, like the judge, anybody in town that's tied together with law enforcement, basically. So, following the storyline in a sense, there was an incident where, now, this is all after the police department started using, like, dash cams on their cars. Not really too many using the cameras on the vests, but the dash cams. And it turns out that the police officers in this small town who come across some individuals, and not just the cousin, but some minor individuals who committed basically misdemeanors that they could not be held more than 24 hours for. Well, something happens. The police end up doing something to each individual, including this cousin, but you never really find out about it. So what do? Instead of releasing them on the day they're supposed to be released, they hold them for 90 days. Exactly 90 days for all these prisoners for misdemeanors. And it all leads up to the main fact that somebody who was a victim of negligence and harassment from the police department, and they were able to obtain camera footage from the vehicle's camera, they were able to sue the police department in the town for a good chunk, and it just barely bankrupt the town. So there's a lot going on with this movie with some of the politicians, the local law enforcements, where they're trying to make some money up to get the town going again, but they do it in such crooked ways. And to keep them from getting into hot water with the court system when it comes to dash cam footage and such, they take these people that they pull over and harass who are caught on camera, and they decide to give them 90 days exactly in jail before they decide to do something else with them. So between the Terry Richmond character and Summer McBride character, who works in the courthouse, who learns all of this out, and while they are getting really close, especially Summer McBride, who gets extremely close as to learning the truth, you get the police department who's threatening her life, knows about her history with drugs, that she is a recovering drug addict, and she's trying to stay clean to get the custody of her child. I think it was her daughter, I believe. And it ends up that they pretty much screw her over with that because she was associating with the guy Terry. But everything starts to fall into place toward the end as the police officers, the police department, trying to destroy all kind of evidence that they can within the courthouse, trying to get this guy, trying to bribe him to stay out of town, but he will not stay away from town. He knows what he has to do. He's got to go back and avenge his cousin's death. He's got to go back and help this woman out who has helped him as far as she could. And I will say, like, with the way the plot plays out, you know, it's one of those movies where you got that one lone hero, basically, the one lone guy who just happens to come into town and just learns about so much wickedness and crooked activities going on within this town. And he pretty much seems like he wants to stay out of it. He's got to stay out of it. He knows he has to. Otherwise, you know, but then again, you know, he chooses to be part of it because he can't let this go on. Just like as the quote in the movie in the movie poster that you guys see, their laws, his rules, basically. So I will say, I'm not going to give the ending away. The ending, to me, falls kind of short, basically. It just cuts off at a certain point where I'm like, okay, well, what happened after that? What happened to this? Does this happen? Does that happen? I would like to see a little bit more, you know, for a movie that is 131 minutes, which is basically just over 2 hours long. Just over 2 hours long, but yet it can't give us every little single detail. It just gives us barely enough to want a little bit more. And there was another movie that had the same effect on me, which was called 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, I believe it was called. And that was a really great movie right there. If you guys have not seen it, Sam Rockwell is in it. A few other good cast members in that movie. And when I saw that movie alone in theater, and I just wanted more. Like, I was really hooked on how good it was. It was a dark comedy. It had a little bit of action and thriller in it too. I think it was based on a true story. I can't remember. But a movie, like I said, a movie like this that comes along, and the story, it becomes very interesting. Like, I wasn't really... I like a good action movie. I like a movie that has some action in it and all, but for a movie like this, and it has a really strong storyline, and it feeds the story to you little by little. It gives you little bits and pieces here. It tries not to put too much out there. It tries not to be a whole lot of this and that, and it definitely doesn't really fall too short. But let me just say, like, the ending, a lot of people probably will not enjoy the ending because of the way the end of the movie cuts out. And when I sit here and I read up on the ending again, and that's something that I do. Every time I watch a new movie, in case if there's something that I don't fully understand or know too much into the plot with it, I'll go back and reread it just to get a better understanding of the movie. And that's where I follow along. I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense right there. I would have liked to see a little bit more out of it, but I think this is one of those movies where it leaves you, the viewer, in suspense of, you make up your own ending. You make up what's next, basically. Like, okay, what happened? Was he able to do this? Was he able to do that? Did this happen? Did that happen? You won't know. Will there ever be a sequel? Who knows? Why is this movie called Rebel Ridge? Well, there's a place in the movie called Rebel Ridge. It's not really focused too much on in detail, but I guess it's just a place that is within this town, and it has some kind of significance to it. But like I said, this movie, it left me with a very tongue-in-cheek ending, and it's almost like I either wanted more, or I was just like, I guess that's it. But I will say, like, everything else that leads up to the ending, it's very satisfying in a sense. And there's certain scenes where I could predict something that's going to happen. I know something's going to happen and how it's going to happen. And it just puts a smirk on your face, and you're like, yeah, you definitely siding with this guy who is going after this crooked police department, all these crooked law enforcement objects, and you're just rooting the whole way. And this guy, while he's doing all this, he's remaining calm. He knows what to do. He knows what to say. That's why I say, like, when it comes to the reception of this movie, like it said, this was an intelligent and gripping vehicle for Aaron Pierre's star-making performance. He really did a really good job with his role in this movie. And this movie even won Best Movie Made for Television this February, actually, this year, at the Critics' Choice Awards. So this movie definitely did win an award for Best Movie Made for Television, which is, Netflix. And usually, there's a lot of good movies that do come to Netflix, don't get me wrong. It's just you got to be in the mood to actually sit and watch them and decipher it for yourself. But then, I don't think I'm going to read too much into this about the production. Apparently the production, it began in April of 2020. And of course, with the pandemic that happened, they had to postpone certain, photographies and certain production sequences. So this movie pretty much took a base of 2 years, 2.5 years to pretty much put together, and then released it in 2024, September 2024. And like I said, this is a movie that is worth checking out. If you have a Netflix account, if you watch Netflix, scroll through and look for Rebel Ridge and give it a go. See if it's definitely something that you enjoy, that you really like to see. What do I think about it? I really think this is a strong story, even though it has a very watered down ending that kind of leaves you either wanting more or leaves you doubtful and like, there could have been a little bit more added to it. But I would say, for a movie that's just over 2 hours, and they pretty much gave you everything throughout the movie. It gave you the explanation as to what is happening, why it's happening, other things that are involved that led up to this, and it all comes uncovered in a very decent pace. The pacing of the movie is played out very well. It doesn't play it out slow. It doesn't play it out too fast. It gives you enough for a certain scene drags it out for a little bit, you know, gives you a little bit of action, and then it goes into the next scene where it gives you a little bit more explanation. So it puts a lot out there, and it times it just right in certain spots, almost like a plot twist in a sense, especially for certain characters that come into the movie in certain parts, in certain different scenes. So my rating for this movie, I definitely will give it an 8.5 out of 10. I would give it a 9, but like I said, it's just that the way the ending had me, and it's not a lackluster ending. Don't get me wrong, it's not very lackluster. It might be for some people who have never, you know, not too crazy about these kind of movies or whatnot. But I will say it's just something about it that some people may not like, while others enjoy it and like, okay, I'll just wonder what happened after that, you know, after the fact. But I definitely will give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. It's definitely worth watching if you have Netflix. And that is pretty much it for today's episode of Cinemacast, guys. That's all I can put out for this movie for today's feature, which is Rebel Ridge. Have you guys seen this movie yet on Netflix? What do you think about this movie? Let me know down in the comment section, guys. And thank you all for joining me today for today's feature. Hope to see you guys next time. And until then, we'll catch you right back here at the cinema.